But let's start with a general statement of which I assume you will agree that it is a challenging time for science. And science is increasingly being called upon to help tackle complex societal issues. And science itself is becoming increasingly complex. And many different national and European agendas demand the attention of science and also Dutch science. At the same time, the reliability of science is being called into question by some parts of that society. And these developments require more collaboration in the science system and more dialogue between science and society. Besides a strong disciplinary basis, collaboration between disciplines across sectors and throughout the knowledge chain and with societal partners is at this moment, I guess, more necessary than ever before. Modern day science increasingly views that reality of today from the perspective of the dynamics within and between complex systems, where diversity in experimental and conceptual approaches is now seen as a source of strength, which was also recognized by the previous speakers. And of course, this also relates to diversity in types of researchers and scientists that work together in a research team or project consortium from different disciplines, backgrounds, genders, or cultures. So what is the situation now, more in particular focusing on STEM and engineering in the Netherlands, and what is the view of NWO as research funding organization? Well, let's view at the next slide, which more or less calls upon action in the Netherlands, where you see that the female STEM students share is relatively low, maybe among the lowest in Europe, and all parties involved agree that we need to do something. We also see that reflected in the share of female academic staff, international academic staff, and the graph, the figure at the right side, also indicates that there may be a ratio 1-to-1 of female and male students in the student share and in PhD students, but that starts to differ quite a lot, going from the level of assistant, associate to full professor. So there is certainly a need for action, which is also recognized by NWO. Last year we have put together our new strategy, and we offered that, or presented that to the Dutch Minister of Education, Culture and Science earlier this year. And in this strategic plan, we claim that we will strive to achieve that inclusive culture that is needed, where there is no place for these barriers as indicated, and where necessary, certainly we will adapt our funding instruments, procedures and approaches to guarantee that, and I will dwell upon that a little bit further in my talk. NWO will also make efforts to attract more researchers with a migrant background and women via incentive measures in the financial possibilities as well as in the appointment policy of its institutes. And we will consider the issue of diversity in the design and realization of research projects and programs. In the next 4 slides, I will give you some more data to give you a little bit of flavor what is going on with the programs and projects that we fund at NWO. First of all, a little bit information on what NWO is, its size. We have a research granting part where we have a budget last year of a little less than 900 million euro, which has grown this year to over 1 billion euro. And we have a research forming part with 9 research institutes with a budget over 100 million euro. And well, the figures there indicate also the FTE and personnel. So we grant approximately a little over 1,700 grants per year, out of a little less than 6,000 last year, with a success rate of 30%, which is nice, but which differs a lot among our funding schemes. And you see that the share of female researchers funded is a little less than a third, so there we have a way to go. Also, if you look at the FTE and personnel of our research institutes, the line I mentioned, the share of women, I've indicated at the right side, Astron, Esron and CWI, that are the real STEM and engineering related institutes of NWO. Astron is on radio astronomy, a world-renowned institute. Esron on space research, with astrophysics and other areas. And CWO stands for the Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science. And there you see that the share of females indeed as low as you might also expect in other countries. So if we now look at the grant applications and grants funded in the different funding schemes that NWO has, from talent to open competition, infrastructure and thematic programs, you see that the share of female applicants in the number of grant applications is going down from approximately 40% to lower shares, especially for example in the other programs where international programs and valorization programs, these are aimed at startup companies, are really more male dominated. When we compare these funding rates between the number of grant applications and number of grants funded, they are approximately the same, a little less for the other category, as I mentioned. So that indicates that there are issues in relation to bias may be not that evident, but still when you look at the underlying figures, it certainly may be for certain schemes. So here you see a little bit more information on our open competition program, which is approximately 100 million euro, 10% of the budget of NWO for the different disciplines and domains. And you see that there the share of female applicants in the number of grant applications is rather low, of the order of magnitude of 20%. Especially low in the sciences and applied and engineering sciences, where we have figures of 20 and 23%. Also there you see that the grant funded percentages are more or less the same as the ones for the number of grants applied for. When we look at the talent program, a little bit more detailed, talent program is 150 million euro annually, so about 15% of the total budget of NWO. We have what we call the VENI, VIDI and VIGI schemes. These are for applicants 3 years, 8 years and 15 years after their PhD graduation, where the VENI is 250,000 euro, the VIDI 800,000 and the VIGI 1.5 million euro. And you see that the share of female applicants for the VENI is almost 50%, but then of course gradually decreasing up to 32% for the VIGI scheme. And also there we see that the grants funded percentages agree a little bit, as you can see also with the percentages of grants applied for. So I guess this gives a little bit a view of the situation that the number of grants applied for by female scientists is really lagging behind, and that's a picture that you might also recognize in other countries. So what are the general measures that we take at NWO? NWO employs clear guidelines and dedicated evaluation formats for application committees to prevent gender bias and to improve equal opportunities. And in its primary role, however, that of a research funding organization, we cannot implement or enforce HRM and employment policies, as these are the direct responsibilities of the universities and institutes involved. But what we can do is offer equal inclusive opportunities to all research project applicants. And here too, we ensure that our call text, our call grant evaluation criteria and the grant evaluation processes are not prohibitive or obtrusive to female scientists. And there we continuously improve that, of course, also based on the input of our stakeholders, the universities and others involved. Our main focus here is also the gender bias issue. The gender bias against female applicants, to which both male and female scientists are prone. And it's known that male and female scientists reveal an implicit, or may sometimes reveal an implicit bias in favor of male applicants. In a recent pilot, NWO offered a training to reviewers and committee members in the VENI selection program. And in the selection procedures, I should say, and the success rate of female applicants improved to levels similar to that of male applicants in comparison to those in the control group. So we will now offer this training to the members of all our evaluation panels in the near future. And we will require, that's also the last bullet mentioned there, that at least 40% of the members of our boards, committees, and evaluation panels will be female. Another measure, well, maybe I forgot that, yes, another measure that we introduced is the so-called extension rule in the NWO talent program that aims to provide equal career opportunities for scientists with children. This measure extends the limited time ranges for VENI, VD, and VICI applications for the biological mother with 18 months, 1.5 years, and for the other parent with 6 months, half a year, for every child. So this extension rule enables both parents to devote significantly more time to their scientific careers while raising their children before applying in the VENI, VD, VICI talent program elements. So what are specific measures that we have in mind? Of course, there where NWO actually employs researchers, we will take action to increase the number of female academic staff at our research institutes. So it's there the WISE, the Women in Science Excellence, Excel program that offer tenure-track positions exclusively to talented female scientists at our institutes. We already introduced several measures to encourage the influx and promotion of female talent at Dutch universities. The Aspasia is an example of a successful program that we are running for a couple of years now to accelerate the career of female scientists at the level of associate professor at Dutch universities. The NWO physics program offers postdoc positions and bridging grants to female physicists who want to develop a long-term career in Dutch physics. The postdoc position is for 5 years, while the bridging grants intend to support the university departments and research institutes during the appointment of a female physicist to a tenured position. And recently we launched a particular pilot call to fund 1-year research appointments for scientists residing in the Netherlands as refugees and wishing to build or continue an academic career. In recent years, the Netherlands and neighboring countries have seen an increasing focus on scientists who have been compelled to flee their homeland due to war or other threats. And in pursuing a scientific career in their host country, refugees often face obstacles such as a language barrier, a different working culture, or a limited scope to build a network. This is a missed opportunity, and because valuable knowledge and expertise among this group of scientists risk being lost rather than enriching the science and society in the host country. And by making this short-term funding available, this group of scientists is given now the opportunity to join current running Dutch research projects and to build their network. And this gives them a chance to actively share knowledge and expertise, to familiarize themselves with the Dutch scientific system, and to resume the career or research line that was interrupted in their home country. And in the same line, we are committed to making the best possible use of scientific talent from minority groups in the Netherlands for greater diversity, also in science, of course. Little is known about the cultural, ethnic, or religious diversity of researchers, but the general picture is that among the academic staff at the universities, there are few Dutch people with a migrant background, even less than perhaps among the bachelor and master students. And we certainly intend to develop a dedicated funding tool to support, in particular, this group of scientists using particular budgets which are now made available by the Dutch government. And we also will use these budgets for personal grants for women in science and engineering to further strengthen our policy in that field. And the intention is to focus these scholarships specifically on the bottlenecks in the scientific career of women in these fields of science and engineering. And we think of bridging subsidies for female postdocs to start with, who want to continue their careers in science in the Netherlands and who can prepare themselves in that way for the VENI, FIDI and VICI talent schemes that we have. For young female STEM scientists, we organize each year the Inside Out networking event, with inspiring lectures, with workshops, with personal stories of scientists and practical tips, very important. And on average, more than 150 women in science gather annually at this event to share insights and experience and connect with fellow researchers. And next to this, we also try to further empower female researchers by organizing the conference which we call Pump Your Career. We do that in collaboration with the network of female professors, the LNVH, we call it in the Netherlands, an event at which, in particular, talent and career development for women in science take the stage. Well, I will wrap up with some statements. And of course, the question, will all these measures be enough to reach an equal gender balance to start with? Well, we don't know. It will definitely take some time, but we think it is really needed, as we believe that diversity leads to inspiration, creativity, and innovation. More and more, the added value is seen of the combined effort of people of different expertise and different backgrounds and perspectives. Also applies to science, of course. And also the importance, we mentioned that already, also the previous speakers, of research being carried out by teams representing the composition of society is also growing. And there's the moral importance, at least we feel it that way, of enabling all talent to develop and flourish. As I mentioned, and I repeat that, we are more and more aware of the potential impact of implicit biases on the careers and lives of scientists, and on the quality also and impact of science as a whole, so we work on that. We also would like to do that not only in a national context, not in splendid isolation, but also in an international context. And we want to take the lead there and take steps. And of course, we also continuously scrutinize the effect of all these measures to assess if and how they contribute to a larger participation of talented women in science. And the last remark I want to make is that we all are aware that, especially in the present time, the science arena is definitely in transition. When we look at open science, the Netherlands takes the lead together with colleague organizations in Europe to make big steps there, actually really the coming years, to introduce open science and data research management, but also the introduction of new ways to evaluate the quality and impact of research and science will inevitably change the science system. NWO, together with the Royal Academy of Science in the Netherlands, will in the next few days or weeks, I'm not quite sure, we will also undersign the San Francisco Declaration. That's the Declaration on Research Assessment, where we will have to develop a clearly different view on how to evaluate quality in science, which we certainly consider also to be very, very relevant to boost further the transition in equality in science as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. And I just want to make a quick note that you've introduced two categories we haven't discussed yet, which are of course, vital to diversity and inclusion: migrants and women with, well, parents. And the implied thing there is that in reality, when you say parents, you mean women with children who can't go on to science because of those caring responsibilities. Yes. That's excellent. Yeah. So we're opening the floor now to questions, and this seems a great opportunity. Could we have the mic over to the front, please, first, and then that guy there. To second row, the edge.
Claudine Herman, President of the European Platform of Women Scientists. I am a French scientist. In your scheme to improve the place of women in science in the STEM sector, did you think about changing criteria of excellence? Because, for example, if you are just quantitative, women are handicapped, and so it needs a deep reflection on what science excellence is based on.
Right, that is actually referring to the last statement I tried to make, where we signed the San Francisco Declaration, which was set up a couple of years ago, and a group of scientists there took the initiative, the DORA, yes, and that is actually focusing on particularly that issue that you are referring to, but that does not hold only for women in science, of course, but for the whole science domain. Because now we measure more and more and more quality in science by the Hirsch index, the impact factor of journals, how many publications do you have in Nature or Science, and that is actually only a very limited view on what excellence in science and quality of research actually means. So what are the new criteria? That would probably been your next question. I don't know. That is the honest answer. I don't know at this moment. So we are working hard on that, not only in MWO, but with our stakeholders to develop these criteria. And not only for excellence in science and what is the quality of research, but also what is the criteria for how do we want to measure and evaluate impact of science in society. That are two sides of the same coin, as we say. The mission of NWO is that we stand for excellence in science, only the best science by the best researchers, but also impact of science. So there we think that a big step has to be made, a step which may have the same impact as going to open science, and we definitely want to take leadership there with our partners in Europe and worldwide to make that step.
The gentleman there with the red. Oh, him first, then the blue, sorry. Thanks.
Chris Paul, Electrophysics from Maastricht University. You stated on a slide that you wish to make all panels committees 40% women.
Yes.
But there's less women doing science, so therefore we're going to make women do more panels, more meetings, and less science.
Yep. No.
Does that not seem counterintuitive?
Yes or no, but you are hitting the right button. That is really true. We have to rely for many of the panel applications that we have, and the panel members are on mostly the same female scientists. So we set a target for our boards, and there you see that we are on the right track. For our panels, it's sometimes really difficult to reach, sometimes even 30 or 20%, but we are pursuing that goal. We really want to reach that. But you are really right. We have to rely there many times on the same female scientists who are willing to fulfill this task. But over time, of course, during the years with all these measures, we hope that the situation will change.
Thank you for the presentation. Laurent Roux with European Institute of Innovation Technology. You described very well your actions, your plans for young female scientists, and also diversity, migrants, and action you're taking. Also, you stressed the importance of dialogue with the citizens and the younger generation, possibly. What are the plans there to inspire the young female students to take up science careers and then benefit from the programs you described here? That's just a few years down the road for them.
Yeah. That is, you could ask the question whether that is also a role for a funding agency, science and research funding agency as NWO. There's also a role for universities and many other stakeholders involved, but we want to be involved because it is also for our own benefit at the end. So we have, for example, specific sector plans in the Netherlands for disciplines like physics, chemistry, engineering now, where this is an item, and not so much the role for NWO, but in particular also for the universities. Then the involvement of citizens and citizen science. We consider that very important. It might also be in some of our schemes to be a particular requirement. In the medical science area, it's very obvious through patient organizations and so on, but we also want to include that in other research schemes that we have. Over the last 2 years or so, we have executed a large process in the Netherlands to come up to the what we call in Dutch Nationale Wetenschapsagenda, the National Research Agenda, the NWA, where we asked the people, the citizens, to come up with interesting questions for science. And we got Now, tens of thousands, and we boiled them down to 25 routes, research routes, and these are now the basis for a research program for which the government offered money, which is 55 million for this year, 85 million for next year, and then from 2020 onward, 135 million. And these research questions came up from citizens, and of course, in the execution of the research programs, we also want to involve them again. How, that is now under debate and under development, but that is the way how we view the involvement of citizens in citizen science.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Beverly Passian, a double PhD actually in project management and business administration, which means that I spend a lot of my time in the social science world. I spend a lot of time with undergraduate and master's students in the social sciences and advising them on their research choices in internships and in at master's level internships. Is there a message that you would convey to me and others in the social science world that I can then, as an educator, convey to my up-and-coming research students in, as I say, in the social science world?
Yeah, so yes, there is a message that that I have also, in particular, of course, from the perspective of NWO as research funding organization. We are more and more setting up large research thematic programs of 1 million, 5 million, up to 10 million, or even more on big, the really societal questions concerning energy, health, migration. Well, you all know them. And we require for each of these projects and programs that there is a combination of the technical sciences, the sciences area, but also the humanities and social sciences. And there we see that they are a little bit lacking behind. And our message from NWO to this particular field of science: organize yourself, be proud, stand up for what you are worth and what you can do, and how you can contribute to solving these large societal questions. In our funding schemes, we require their presence. And of course, that will then also be a criteria for the selection of the particular program or project. So they really should be top level, included in that program. And that is still a big step to make, in my view, my observation, for the social sciences and humanities.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Professor Schouten. We now